Well, joining us now on the news to discuss the police panel reports on Rivers State are two public affairs analysts. We have Nelson Ekujumi here in the studio with us in Lagos, and we have Professor Andrew Efemini, a lecturer in the Department of Philosophy, University of Port Harcourt. We'll start with the professor in Rivers State. It's good to have you join us on the News Hour. So tell us how optimistic you are about the credibility of the results of the panel.
Well, I don't know about credibility, because credibility will be a function of what side of the divide you fall into. As it is, we can see from beginning that the Rivers State government clearly said they were not interested in the activities of the panel. And we also saw clearly that the federal government, especially through the Nigerian police, we are determined to do what they decided they would do. So perception of the activities of the panel clearly is a function of where you stand.
Yeah, Professor, are you surprised at the outcome of this revelation?
There is nothing that people say about elections in Nigeria that one will be surprised about. In fact, we know what ordinarily goes on. So what they are saying, they have seen, we know those are the routine games of politics and politicians for ages. So they know the obvious things that they all do, and that when they do these things, they are not saying the usual. We ordinarily know that all parties, both sides, do what they are doing. So when they decide to bring out one side of the story, the other side may even be heavier. So we should be committed to electoral reforms. We watch elections in America. Do you see this kind of thing? Police going to look at who has given money, who has not given money. These are elements of third world politics. We should be able to get rid of them. If the panel exposes us to the whole drama of politics and what it is in Nigeria. And I'm embarrassed by some of the happenings in the country.
All right, Nelson, let's come to you here in the studio. The professor there in Port Harcourt seems not to be impressed with all the processes the panel has gone through. But tell us your impression of the report, especially against the backdrop that the suspects have confessed to receiving the monies.
Well, I don't think the professor is skeptical about the panel. I think the professor, knowing the environment in which he operates, maybe he's just being careful. But be that as it may, we are all very much aware that the responsibility for investigating, crime in the society is that of the police, because their duty is to maintain law and order, whether it is election time, whether it is festival time, at all times, 24/7. That is the responsibility of the police. And we're all living witnesses to what transpired at the December 10, 2016 legislative rerun elections in Rivers State. Don't forget, this election, spilled over from April 11, 2015. They had the election in March 2016, and it was the same bloodshed. And even at that December 10, a superintendent of police was beheaded with his driver. So the setting up of this panel by the Inspector General of Police is within his purview constitutionally. So whether you agree with it or you want to read meaning to it, one thing is very, very clear. The office of the Inspector General of Police is not a political office. It's the Inspector General of Police of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and is a professional institution that has a mandate, to deliver. So whether you now agree with it, you have a right, to, if you disagree, to adopt the civilized method of, challenging it in court. And you recollect that even before this money came up, this money that they said they recovered from some INEC officials, you recollect there was a tape, an alleged leaked audio tape of the governor in question, threatening some electoral officers that, look, I paid you. If you are not going to perform for what I paid you for, I will kill you, or something like that. That allegation is still in the domain. It's still in the public domain. So anybody who is trying to impugn, sentiments into the credibility of this function of the panel I think they know the obvious thing to do.
Now, talking about the governor, he has consistently denied having any issues with regards to or anything to do with the electoral malpractices, despite sometimes evidences coming out, contrary to that. So, how do you, marry that? What do you make of that?
Well, it's the state of mind of some of our people, whether you are in public office or not. Don't forget, let us take our mind back to Ekiti State. When the gubernatorial election they held in, I think that was June 2014, and when the tape of Captain Sagikoli came out, and the man, revealed what transpired between the then candidate of the PDP, Mr. Odili Fayose, and the general who was, seconded by the government to go and oversee how they will undermine the democratic process in Ekiti State, which they succeeded to a large extent. Despite the fact that the captain came out and revealed what happened, the panel that was set up by the military, confirmed the authenticity of that tape, in which the captain made those revelations. And even after that, a secretary of the party then also came out and said, I was part of this mess. This was what transpired. Mr. Odili Fayose was given so amount of money. The man kept on denying. Mr. Musilo Banikoro, the Minister for State for Finance, when he came back into the country, the man that was alleged to have been the conduit pipe from the office of the ex-National Security Advisor, he also came up and said, I gave this man money, and the man is nice. So it is not
I'm glad you remember to use the word alleged, because it's still an allegation. Okay, let's bring in the professor now from Rivers State. We know that INEC says they are yet to receive the reports from the police panel. But tell us what further action you would expect to be done from INEC or even the IGP when the report is presented to the electoral body.
First of all, I think that there is a consensus that we need free and fair elections. So that's not what we are discussing or debating. We are debating pre- and post-electoral matters. All the issues that I see going on, they collected money, they rigged the elections, all those are post-election matters which ordinarily should go to the election tribunal. And in the election tribunal, we expect police to be a neutral empire. So if you take the issue of the death of the police officer, which clearly for me is excesses of all politicians in this country who think that they can kill for the purpose of capturing power, then we are going to change the whole discussion. I expect that they will submit a report to the INEC, and that INEC, being an interested party in post-elections matter, may then have evidence to tender, because I know that INEC ordinarily should be party to the dispute. But I'm very careful not to see politicization of the Nigerian police. My friend there talked about neutrality of the police. It's extremely important. I'm saying, knowing what I know about this country, that we need to all work hard to make the police as neutral as it is necessary in a democracy. We must look beyond Nigeria. Nigeria is not a model for any free and fair election. So I don't even know the basis of the praising and identify who is corrupt, who is not corrupt in elections. If we want to analyze all electoral crimes, maybe we will spend the whole years identifying persons. They all know themselves. The police know that if they want to focus on all the sides, many issues will come up. And we want electoral reforms to be conditioned in such a way that we deal with the way it should be. We can conduct free and fair elections like other countries of the world, for goodness sake. You don't come and do backyard elections and then you bring people to the studio to begin to discuss who bribed, who did not bribe. Something we all know that all politicians are guilty of. That's the point I'm making. We need to be frank. We don't need to be creating impression that it's one side, it's not the other side. Any party who says anyone is not involved, we can then begin to look at the facts. So I want us to be careful about politicizing the police.
All right. Many thanks for your thoughts, Professor Efemini, on that. Now, just before we round up on this segment, what do you make of this revelation with regards how elections are being conducted in Nigeria? How will the public now perceive, with this in mind?
Well, the public is very much aware of the desperation of, politicians. It is not a new thing, but the most worrisome aspect there is the connivance of electoral officers. That is sacrilegious. And that is why time and time again, we have advocated for us to have a system in place that when you are involved in electoral, malpractice, whether as an officer of INEC or as a politician, we should get a conviction for you to serve as a lesson. And why this thing has continued, to persist till now is because until the INEC chairman came up some few weeks back and said they have gotten 61 convictions, which to us is like, rubbing the surface. Because a lot of this electoral, malpractices, electoral, shenanigans is being perpetrated by a drummer, somebody down in the bush who is beating the drum for the small fries. So when this case that we have seen, the professor was saying it's all sides of the coin that are involved. But I want to say clearly, in this case, the police have established a case against somebody. And it is that process, that establishment that you have committed a crime or allegedly committed a crime that we should focus on. The other parties that are also involved in it, one day the chicken will come home to roost. Okay,
we'll leave it here for now. Thank you very much, Nelson Ekujumi and Professor Efemini in Rivers State. Thank you both for your contributions on the News Hour.
Thank you.